YouTube, Awesomewriter here. Welcome to my review for Kikai Sentaqi Zenkaiger episode 13, I believe it is. So, this week's episode kind of dealt with a semi-regular Sentai trope. Not one of the most common ones, but it's one you definitely see a lot, in which a monster will sort of brainwash citizens or turn them into other monsters, and the Rangers are like, we can't hit them! And like, that was kind of the core premise of the filler aspect of this episode, is you have Monster of the Week, which is a recycle monster. He turns like citizens, both human and not human gear, Kikinoid. He turns them into like the robot henchmen. And so when the Rangers are fighting, of course the main Zenkaigers don't even want to remotely like poke them in the shoulder. And then TwoKaioh shows up and Zenkaiger is like, dude, you can't hit them. And he's like, why? He's like, because they're people. He's like, oh. Yes, queen! Like, it's just funny because this type of episode usually annoys me because I'm not saying beat the hell out of the citizens, but I feel like they could defend themselves, like push them away or try to knock them out. Like, I've seen other hero shows, like I think some Arrowverse ones, I think Batwoman just did it, where like the citizens are under a spell and they'll still fight them. Like, again, I'm not saying beat the hell out of them. I'm just saying you can defend yourself without being like, oh, I'm sorry, I pushed your shoulder. Like, it annoys me, and it annoys me how preachy the Sentai heroes will get during this. But that results in Zenkaiger's solution to tickle them with feathers, because earlier they found out that Gown is ticklish from when he was interacting with these kids. And Gown plays a big role in this episode because everyone's wearing gowns. No, I'm just kidding. But he plays a big role in this episode because, you know, his love for humans, and he doesn't like that the humans are being put in a position to be hurt. And he bonds with these kids at the beginning, and they end up being taken over, and he doesn't want to see them get hurt. So he's kind of a focal point a little bit to this storyline. But they're basically, like, tickling the robots to stop them and to get the gears off of them, because the monster gives them gears, seemingly, but they're false gears. Which is one of the good aspects of this episode, I thought, was smart play for the villains, is that they realized over the last couple weeks that the main Zenkaigers and TwoKaioh's goals are different. So they're kind of pitting them against each other, because TwoKaioh doesn't care about punching them, period, but then they might have the gear to the SD world to fix his brothers, so he's willing to punch him in the face to get it. And so the Zenkaigers, I keep doing that, the Zenkaigers come up with the tickle plan to sort of find a way to get it off of them without injuring them. So that was a smart play by the villains, though. I really like that. I feel there's been a couple smart villain plans over the last couple weeks, but I like that they've been paying attention to that, and I like the way they made use of that. And I did like also that TwoKaioh was ultimately kind of amused by Kaito's antics and ideas, because I feel another trope that could happen with this is often like the stoic character or the badass character that doesn't want to follow the rules would just dig his heels in further and be like, well, now I'm just going to punch him even harder. But I like how he's just amused by it. He's like, okay, whatever, we can get this done either way. And I think it turns out once they cured him, they still had the gears on them. So that led me to think, well, why not just beeline for the monster, blow him up, and then just cure him? Because the tickle thing, that wasn't my thing. That sounds weird. But like that whole sequence I thought was dumb. It didn't amuse me. I liked stuff around it, like the villain plan and TwoKaioh being amused by it instead of digging his heels in. But I just found that to be annoying Toku rather than fun Toku for me personally in terms of that aspect. There was some fun uses of and like smart uses of the Sentai gears this week. Like when they were trying to stop TwoKaioh, they used the Ohranger gear to put him in cuffs. And then later, Navi suggested that they use the Goanger version, or TwoKaioh's version of the Goanger's gear, so that they could do a Go on Wings power-up when they defeated the Monster of the Week. So that was cool. The monster grows big, what was kind of neat, is since it's a recycle monster, it summoned those other, like, robot things to create clones of previous monsters they've fought, to make the battle more intense, and then they do, like, a roll call of, like, Trash, Sentai, Worldger, the Worldger, or something like that. And that was kind of cool, and that gave Navi, not Navi, an opportunity to say like, oh, sometimes there's evil Sentai. I'm like, does this really count as one though? But they gave a chance to show that file. I like how these files are sort of like the Ohranger at the end of the episode files, but just incorporated into the episode. But something I've consistently praised for Zenkaiger is that I like that the mecha fights are usually pretty unique, where they incorporate the world monsters, like ability or aesthetic or both. And so this one had them all colliding. So you had the aesthetics everywhere, they had all kinds of different types of fights, like the boxing ring and the ice rink stuff. And so that was really cool. And they ultimately end up losing because they use like their cannon finisher. We saw episodes back that the Zenkaigers could use a cannon finisher that looked like their changer, and the monsters use one, but it looks like Stacy's changer. It's like, not like an evil version, just another finisher like this one. So that gives TwoKaioh an excuse to show up and show off his Ohranger formation and save the day. But then we have Stacy showing up at the end and betraying the monster, and we engage in a face-off. And I mentioned last week how one of the things I'm not liking is I wish that Stacy and TwoKaioh's stories weren't so mishmashed. Like, I feel they could have debuted them back-to-back, and that would give a lot more episodes of new content, and it wouldn't make Stacy feel like he's getting lost in the shuffle. And especially last week, because I mentioned in that review that I liked that they kind of seeded the build-up for Stacy's mecha debut throughout the whole episode. And then it was kind of an anticlimax, because then at the end he just showed up, punched a couple times and left, because the main focus wound up being TwoKaioh's mecha debut. And then this week I felt is how his debut should have been, and how last week's episode should have ended. Or better yet, I would have had the sort of slow build up to Stacy's debut be seeded throughout the last 2 episodes. Like, have them be working through the episode, working through and working on the mecha through this episode and last week's episode. And then you have a debut today in this episode at the very end. Nice cliffhanger. It's a good debut for it. It gets you talking for next week. And it doesn't feel awkward where it's like, okay, build up, build up, build up. Here's the mecha. Bye! So I think they should have done that, but it was a good cliffhanger. Then, though, oddly enough, the preview for next week is like, oh, Zenkaiger and TwoKaioh are gonna duel. I'm like, but you're setting up for a Stacy thing. I think there could be a funny rivalry with Stacy and TwoKaioh because he's still in the spotlight, but we'll have to see. But regardless, I thought this was a very solid episode this week. I would give it a 3. I really did like the mecha fight uniqueness where they incorporated all the unique elements. I liked the cliffhanger. I liked seeing the debut of TwoKaioh's thing. I liked TwoKaioh sort of dealing with that trope of don't hit the citizens that are brainwashed by actually just punching them. I liked the smart play by the villains. The only thing that I really didn't like was just kind of the general tickling stuff and the genericness of that message, but I thought it was a solid episode. But what did you guys think? What do you think of this evil Sentai? What do you think of the second part of TwoKaioh's mecha debut? Do you wish Stacy was getting a little bit more standalone spotlight rather than being mixed with TwoKaioh? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can try my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.